They rolled in like they owned the place. 3 spotless white SUVs, tinted windows hiding faces filled with smug authority, turned onto the long gravel road leading to the ranch. Dust kicked up behind their tires, floating lazily in the Texas sun. They didn't slow down, not even when the first private property sign appeared, nor the second, nor the third. That was their first mistake. Out here, respect matters, and if you don't knock before walking onto someone's land, you better be ready for what's waiting. James Carter had been up since dawn. He always was. His morning started with feeding the animals, walking the fence line, and brewing a strong pot of coffee that could make a dead man sit up. The ranch wasn't just his home, it was his peace, his place to breathe. A hard-earned life built far from the noise of the city and the chaos of the world he used to know. The moment he heard the rumble of tires on gravel, he set his coffee down on the porch rail. His dog, Daisy, already stood alert at his side, tail stiff, ears high. James narrowed his eyes. No one visited unannounced, not out here, and certainly not in a convoy. He didn't move. Not yet. He watched. The SUVs pulled up without a word, without a wave. The doors popped open one by one. 5 men stepped out. All wore matching uniforms, navy blue shirts, shiny gold badges that looked more like props than real authority. Radios clipped. To their shoulders, cargo pants and combat boots that looked brand new. No dirt, no wear, no sweat. One of them, tall, thin, and clearly trying too hard to project power, stepped forward. His badge read, HOA Enforcement Officer. The others spread out like they were preparing to breach a compound. They didn't. Realized they already had. "Sir," the leader barked. "We're here on official business. You're in violation of community standards." James didn't reply. Just watched them like he used to watch the horizon through a sniper scope, letting their body language tell the truth their mouths wouldn't. "Excuse me?" James finally asked, voice calm, low. The man puffed up his chest. "This property is under the jurisdiction of the River Glen HOA. We've received multiple complaints. Livestock not properly registered, unapproved fencing modifications, and unauthorized use of solar panels." James let the silence sit for a moment. Then he stepped down from the porch. "I don't live in River Glen, that's 5 miles east." "Well," the man said, clearing his throat, "HOA boundaries recently expanded. We sent out notices." James tilted his head, slowly. "I didn't get one." The man faltered for a split second. "Regardless, we're here to inspect the property. If you don't comply, we'll be forced to issue citations and, if necessary, call the county." The others had begun fanning out, one poking around near the barn, another walking toward the water tank, 2 more flanking James-like. They thought they were cornering prey. Daisy let out a low growl. James raised a hand slightly, calming the dog. His other hand reached behind him, not fast, not threatening, just practiced. He pulled a weathered leather wallet from his back pocket. He flipped it open. Inside, under, his old driver's license and ranch permit was a worn but unmistakable ID. Navy SEAL, retired, Team 6. The man took one glance. His confidence cracked. "I suggest," James said, "you call whoever told you to show up here and let them know you're making a serious mistake." One of the other men had disappeared around the side of the house. James turned slightly to track him without looking away from the leader. A chill ran through him. He didn't like not knowing where all the pieces were. The man in charge swallowed hard. "We're just following protocol." "This ain't protocol, this is trespassing." The wind shifted. A hawk screeched overhead. Then came the sound of a gate clanking open, metal against metal. James turned sharply. The man who had vanished earlier now stood inside James's livestock pen, fumbling with a bolt cutter on a locked equipment shed. Without permission. Without a word, James's eyes darkened. "You might want to stop him," he said. But the leader was already backing away, his voice suddenly more hesitant. We'll note your disagreement, but until our office confirms." James had already moved, swift, silent, purposeful. The kind of movement that only comes from years of training, the kind that doesn't need weapons to be dangerous. He didn't yell. He didn't posture, he just reached the gate and opened it, walking straight toward the man inside the pen. "Put the cutters down," he said. The man turned, surprised, but something in James's expression made him freeze. For a second, he thought about ignoring the order. That was his second mistake. James stepped close, lowered his voice. "You're trespassing. You're armed. You're trying to break into a locked building on private land. We're enforcing—" The man began. "No. You're impersonating officers. Real officers don't raid unarmed civilians without warrants." The cutter dropped with a metallic clatter. James stared him down long and hard until the man looked away. By the time James turned back toward the porch, the rest of the so-called HOA cops were huddled together, whispering rapidly, clearly unsure of what to do next. But James knew this wasn't about HOA violations. This was something deeper. Someone wanted something on his land. Someone had sent these men not to cite him but to provoke him, to scout. Maybe worse, and they had picked the wrong man. Because James Carter was not just a rancher. He was a former Navy SEAL with 10 tours under his belt. He had survived war zones more chaotic than this, and he had the instincts to know when something was off. This was not the end. This was the beginning. Somebody had started a fire out here, and James was about to find out who struck the match. But just as he turned to send them off his land, a sound stopped him cold. A second vehicle, a black one, no markings, slower, heavier. It pulled up behind the others and a single figure stepped out. Sunglasses, clean suit, government issue. He wasn't with the HOA, and James had a gut feeling. He wasn't with the county either. Something big was coming, and it had just arrived. The man who stepped out of the black vehicle did not rush. He shut the door carefully, like he wanted everyone watching to know he was in control. He adjusted his sunglasses and scanned the scene, without saying a word. His suit was crisp. His shoes were clean. Too clean for ranch country. His eyes, though hidden, seemed to take in everything. The flustered HOA crew, James standing in the dust, the dog at his side, even the hawk still, circling overhead. James felt it right away. The weight in the air shifted. This one wasn't here by mistake. He was the kind of man who moved through doors others opened for him. The HOA guys straightened up like soldiers when they saw him. One of them, the leader who had barked orders earlier, rushed over and leaned in to speak. Whatever he said, the man in the suit did not react. He just stood there, calm, quiet, eyes fixed on James the whole time. Daisy's ears pinned back. James felt the same tension in his gut. Something deeper than trouble. This was a man used to secrets. The kind that came with silence, files marked, confidential, and orders that never touched paper. He finally stepped forward. "Mr. Carter," he said, his voice even. Not a question. He already knew. James did not answer. He just waited. The man continued. "I apologize for the intrusion. There seems to have been a miscommunication regarding jurisdiction. These men will leave now." The leader of the fake HOA team blinked. "Sir, I said," the man in the suit repeated. "They will leave." No arguments after that. The fake officers piled back into their SUVs, engines starting one by one. They left the same way they came, fast, careless, wheels spitting, gravel and dust. No apologies, no eye contact, just gone. But the black vehicle stayed, and so did the man in the suit. James crossed his arms. The man looked out over the land, nodding slowly. "Nice setup you've got here. Solar, water catchment, livestock off-grid independent clean records, retired Navy." Still, James said nothing. "I'm not here to cause problems," the man said. "But I think you know this wasn't about property lines." James finally spoke. "What was it about?" The man paused, like he had expected that question, but maybe not so soon. "Let's just say certain people are looking into rural properties with unusual energy patterns. Self-sustained setups. You've been flagged." "Flagged by who?" "That's not information I can share. Not yet." James stepped down from the gate. Daisy followed, close by his heel. "Then we have nothing to talk about." The man took a step closer, This isn't just about you, Mr. Carter. It's about something under this land, something your military record says you'd understand. James's expression didn't change, but his heart rate ticked up. He had been careful to leave that life behind. Every mission, every code word, every classified file. He'd walked away, or so he thought. Whatever you think is here, James said. It's not. The man smiled slightly. That's the thing. We don't think. We know. James held his ground. You've got 10 seconds to leave. I will, the man said, calm as ever. But not because of a threat. Because something's coming and I believe you'll want to be ready. He turned without another word, walked back to his car, and drove off down the dirt road. No tire, spin, no dust cloud, just gone like smoke on the wind. James stood there for a long time after the road went quiet. The silence of the land returned, but not the peace. He looked around. Everything seemed the same. The barn, the fields, the sky overhead. But it wasn't. Something had changed. Something had been triggered. That man did not drive all the way, out here without reason. Those fake HOA enforcers were not amateurs, and that quiet comment about something under the land stuck in James's mind like a splinter. Back inside, he pulled down an old lockbox from the closet, a heavy, dented thing covered in dust and worn stickers. It had followed him from base to base and finally to the ranch. He opened it with a key tied to a leather strap he wore around his neck, something he never took off. Inside were the pieces of a man he used to be, a folded uniform, a handful of medals, photos from places no tourist would ever visit, coordinates, maps, and a single flash drive. He powered up his old laptop, one he had kept offline for years, plugged the drive in. Files blinked to life. Mission reports, communications, encryption logs, and then a series of satellite scans, not of war zones, but of land. His land. Different dates, different angles, heat patterns, magnetic anomalies, seismic readings. The last image made him sit down. Beneath his barn, nearly 200 feet down, there was a shape. Not natural. He had seen shapes like that before, in the Middle East, in South America, places where the ground hid more than just rock. Structures built long before humans mapped the stars, buried, forgotten, but not gone. He stared at the screen, fingers resting lightly on the keys. He thought he had come to this place for peace, but maybe the peace was never real. Maybe someone had led him here, or maybe they had been watching all along, waiting for the right time. Outside, the wind picked up again, a cold front sweeping in from the north, the kind that makes animals restless, the kind that carries more than just weather. James closed the laptop and locked the box. If they came back, they would not find him unprepared, but he could not shake the question. If there was something under his land, something powerful enough to send men in fake uniforms and a man in a government suit, what had he been living on all these years? And why were they coming for it now? The questions burned in his mind and the answers were buried deep.